Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Shake Sales. Sujan Patel here, the co-founder and CEO of Mailshake. Today I got Matthew Putnam. We're going to talk about LinkedIn prospecting the right way and helping train your sales team on that. Matt, welcome aboard.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So would you mind maybe starting with a brief introduction, and then we'll just dive into LinkedIn prospecting?
Yeah, sure thing. Well, hi everyone. I'm Matt. I'm the Director of Global Sales Development at Thomas and the founding sales trainer at Sales Upskill. I've been living and breathing sales for the last 12 years of my life.
Love it. And one of the things, I was doing some mild stalking before this interview, and one of the things I think you do really well, and you've shared a lot of great, just a really great cheat sheet on is LinkedIn prospecting. Tell me about, I find like 99% of people do prospecting on LinkedIn wrong, right? And some of the stuff you share and what's right is pretty basic, but like, what do you think is like kind of like the right way to prospect on LinkedIn these days?
It's a big question, and I've got a few thoughts on this, really. So, at the end of the day, like, LinkedIn is an incredibly powerful tool to use for prospecting, right? It's almost like your own personal advertisement page on the internet. You put your CV on there. A lot of people use it for finding new jobs, so you make it look all nice so that when an employer looks at it, it looks good. But you can do the exact same thing for finding prospects and clients, right? There's over 1 billion users now on that platform. So yeah, it's not something to turn your nose up. And the reality is there's a few factors I think which hold people back with prospecting on LinkedIn. I think first, people are afraid to use it. Like, maybe I don't want to be too visible professionally and so on. So, there's a nervousness around actually being present on LinkedIn, whether that's posting, whether that's messaging people. The next bit is then, and this comes up with, cold calling and emailing as well in general, right? A lot of reps want to make sure that the messaging they're sending is perfect. If they have to show their manager, they need to be making sure that the pitch is flawless. The understanding of the pain point is flawless. But the problem with that is it instantly becomes a sales conversation. But LinkedIn is set up like a social media platform. So it'd be like going on Instagram and pitching people. It's not so natural. So I think they're two of the things that are most commonly cause of people not using LinkedIn as a prospecting platform. And look, we've all experienced the invitation to connect, and in your head you think, someone's about to send me a pitch, right? Yeah, and you think everyone thinks it, right? So by instantly then pitching, you've already lost because that person's correct. You've made that person correct and everyone's thinking it. So you've got to kind of rethink the approach to LinkedIn. And I think this is in two parts, really. And what I've been doing, I've only been focusing on my LinkedIn for the last 4 months, coming up to 5 months. And like, I can give some stats on the outcomes of it. And, it's literally changed my life. And I've had so many positives come off the back of it. But what I've done as step one is I've created a brand on my LinkedIn. So my LinkedIn is all around Thomas, and it's all around Sales Upskill. Most of my audience are sales related audiences. So I post a lot of sales related content. And I've then got links where people can access Thomas. I've got links where they can access the sales training and so on. So point one, I've got a brand. If someone goes to the website, goes to my LinkedIn page, they'll know, okay, who is Matt? He's Director of Sales Development at Thomas, and he does sales training. They're the two things. And it's quite hard to not know that from my profile. And then the next thing is I just speak to people like normal. My conversation starter with everyone is literally, if I'm connecting with them, it's thanks for connecting. How have you been? And then actually just have a conversation with them. I have no agenda for the first few weeks speaking to people, apart from maybe asking for feedback on certain things. Saw you're doing this. We do this. What's your feedback on it? I'm not asking for any crazy commitments because I know not a lot of the time when I'm reaching out to people, they're probably expecting that. So I just don't want to fall into that trap, which so many people do.
What? So, I think you said something really powerful here that people miss, especially reps that are, building out their profiles. Is like they go straight for they go straight for the expected behavior, and you're going for a building relationship. The other thing is you've really pinpointed your brand and your audience, right? And I think that's very important to do, or like before you go do anything else, make sure you've got a profile it's very clear what you do and who it's for, who you're valuable for. What a lot of your so I'd say like before you go prospecting, that's probably the prerequisite, right?
Yeah, I think that people are going to know that you're going to want to have a conversation about a certain thing if you're reaching out to people to connect, to do business with. So, it's then the classic sales cycle thing. Your job at this point is to get to know them and show them that you understand problems that they may be experiencing, and then show them that you are the right person to help solve those problems. So, setting up your LinkedIn page to have answers, questions, featured posts, you can do all of this. Make sure you've got links to the website and so on. Because I think that's going to help people realize that, yeah, okay, this is what this person does. The other thing you've got to bear in mind is, connections are actually not a permanent thing, because you can always unconnect from someone, but they are quite permanent, right? Like, how often do you see people's network of connections reduce? It's very rare. So, once you've got them in, then it's a really good opportunity to start nurturing people. So you've got them in, they've connected with you. You are now that person in that, or in their network as well. So what could you be showing them and sharing with them that's just going to help them? And it's then you've got the opportunity to just share things that will benefit them, and then they'll think really highly of you eventually, if you hit the mark with the stuff you're sharing. So I think that's, build that brand first, or start building that brand, and then really focus on connecting with people. It's something I talk to my sales development reps, like, again, on a one-to-one I had recently. One of the goals is literally by the end of this year to be connecting with enough people that they're going to go from 200 connections to, over 4,000 based on what we've seen the last 3 weeks, if they keep up what they're doing. And that's amazing, right? When you think about it, that's a huge number of people that will then be able to see that person's post, see what they're doing. They'll then start thinking, okay, well, I've seen this business before. And I think that's the idea of it. It's a marketing channel. It's free advertisement apart from the time that you have to put in. So an incredibly powerful tool.
Mm-hmm. When you connect with folks, let's dig into connecting with folks, right? So what is, in this example, like your sales rep, like who are they connecting with? Their actual prospects, or?
Yeah, I would.
Let's talk about the who, I guess.
I would always suggest connecting with two different types of people. So you'd want to be connecting with, for people who are medic users out there, the economic buyers, as well as the champions, and ideally as many champions as possible. And then if you can start posting and sharing content on problems they actually face, you can then start getting a lot of really positive engagement from people. Outside of that, it's always worth connecting with people who are similar to you, who understand what you're going through, because you can always then use that audience to help get more activity and engagement on what you're doing on LinkedIn and posts and so on. And I suppose one really interesting one to think about, because there's a lot of negativity around the phrase engagement pods, right? And I get it. Like, there are some pods out there that I've heard of where, people are having to pay money to get engagement and things like that, to get more views on their profile and stuff. But what's the difference between that and getting your company to like your posts and getting employees to like your posts and things like that? There isn't a difference. But bear in mind, your sales team are all targeting the same audience, probably different segments and so on, right? Fantastic. So here we go. So, I think one thing, if people really wanted to be a lot smarter with the way they approach their LinkedIn, is work with your colleagues on creating however many posts that you can, put sharing articles, that are relevant to your company, sharing free resources that would really benefit your prospects, and then work internally with your team to make sure everyone's posts are getting, a lot of likes and a lot of comments, because LinkedIn loves that. And at that point, it starts pushing out to more people. Yeah, you've just made an engagement pod, but it's a really effective way of building your brand, because people do look at the likes on posts. They do look at how many connections you've got, and that, yeah, it comes across as a bit of a vanity metric. But I'll be honest, if I see someone with 50 connections, something in my head which just goes, nah, probably don't need that person. I probably don't need to speak to that person for whatever reason. They could be an incredibly senior and powerful person who just doesn't use LinkedIn, but I instantly just in my head of 50 connections, is that useful or not?
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah. And I mean, engagement pods have a bad rep everywhere, but like, if you think about, okay, so even the ones you have to pay for, if you didn't pay for it, you would be sponsoring your post and paying for it a different way, right? Like, engagement pod is just a shortcut to doing marketing, and advertising. Marketing folks do this all the time. When you launch a product, you try to get votes and you build a community. I think the trick is to do it in an authentic way, right? Where, let's say you've got a bunch of friends that are sales development reps. You're helping each other out. That's it. Like, it could be as simple as that. But when LinkedIn rewards behavior like engagement in the first 5 minutes, it's kind of asking for people to create.
I hear you, and I think my point here is really, like, you can just be really smart about it. And I think, like you said, like, it's having people who are similar to you that can engage in certain ways to help your posting and so on do better, right? And look, I think for me, that if I was to really sum up all of this, it's make sure your brand on your LinkedIn profile is set up for the people you're looking to attract to whatever your goal is. Like, if it's a meeting booked with prospects, well, why do they want to book meetings? What are the problems that they face that would be the reason why they want to book a meeting? Make sure that's clear as day on your LinkedIn. Like, you can be really creative with how you set up things like job roles, like that you've had at different companies. You don't have to put a description of what you're doing at that job. You don't have to put in your target achievement to make it a CV. You could put in the description the key pain points that your company solves. So when someone visits your website, they do that. You can now add links on your website to take people to certain bits of information. Tailor that all so it's like a one-stop shop of just advertisement of useful things. And then make sure you're targeting the right people, but target them, connect with them. Do not put a message in the connection request. It's a debate I have with a lot of people. I've got the stats on it. It doesn't do better. If you just send the connection request out, the effort you'll put in with sending that out, it's just not worth it. Just send the connection requests and just keep growing that audience. And then just don't pitch straight away. Do not. If you do that, you're doing better than 95% of the people selling on LinkedIn.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, and kind of ending here is like, LinkedIn sounds like a very complex thing, but it's simple. Build your brand, be specific about who you're targeting, and have messaging your brand around that specific pain point. If you look at a core example, is just look at Matt's profile. It's very easy to tell who he's going after. Look at any employee at Mailshake, at any sales team. They talk about one of two pain points: email deliverability or omni-channel outreach. And that's because that's our customer. They care about that. That's something that engages them. And then everything else kind of works backwards from that goal, and then hit the basics. And I want to point out, if you follow Matt on LinkedIn, he's got an awesome pinned post on just a LinkedIn cheat sheet. So there's a whole lot of tactical things that we didn't cover here. And then Matt, where can people go kind of learn more follow along? How are you?
Yeah, so uh, Matthew Putnam on LinkedIn, you'll find me. A lot of the things I post around are just enablement around sales. So, like I say, like making things like LinkedIn prospecting easier, cold calling easier. You know, I've got cheat sheets and posts every day coming out for this whole year. So, if you're looking to develop these things, check that out. Or you can visit my website, salesupskill.com, that everything's there as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Matt.
Yeah, thank you for having me.